All right, let's just jump right into this. I want you to picture something. You've got the most respected legal scholars of the day. I mean, guys who have spent their entire lives studying one sacred book. Then the author of that very book shows up, does something absolutely incredible, and they just don't get it. They completely miss the point. It's a baffling scenario, and it's exactly what we see in the 12th chapter of Matthew.
I mean, it's a huge question, right? How can the people who know the rulebook inside and out, the absolute experts, fail to recognize the one the book is all about? That's the mystery we're going to try to unravel here. And the wild part is, we can do it using their very own style of argument.
Okay, first things first. We have to get our heads around just how big of a deal the Sabbath was. This wasn't just, a lazy Sunday. It was a core piece of Jewish identity. In fact, we know from historical accounts that some Jews would literally choose to be killed by their enemies rather than pick up a weapon on the Sabbath. It was that important.
So, into this super high-stakes environment, two things happen that just light a fuse. First, Jesus' disciples are hungry, so they just pluck some grain from a field and eat it. The Pharisees are on them in a second, accusing them of working. Then, they try to set this little trap for Jesus, asking if it's okay to heal on the Sabbath. But Jesus, he doesn't even play their game. He just goes ahead and heals a man with a withered hand.
And this right here, this is the whole conflict in a nutshell. The Pharisees are looking at their checklist, their interpretation of the law. They see broken rules, full stop. But Jesus is looking at the same scene and he sees something totally different. He sees hungry people who need food and a man who is suffering and needs to be whole.
Now this is where it gets really good. Jesus' response isn't to say the law's bad or doesn't matter, not at all. He actually goes deeper into their own scriptures, picks up their own playbook, and basically schools them on what the Sabbath is really all about.
His first move is just brilliant. He brings up this story about King David that every single one of them would know by heart. David was on the run, he was desperate and hungry, and he broke a clear rule. He ate the holy bread that was only for priests. And the point is clear, right? Why was he not condemned? Because meeting a human need was more important than the ritual in that moment.
And he's not done. He hits them with a second example, this one straight from the law they claim to know so well. He's like, hey, what about the priests in the temple? They're working hard on the Sabbath. It's a busy day for them, but nobody accuses them of breaking the law because their work is for the temple. So clearly not all work is forbidden.
What Jesus is doing here is using this classic rabbinic teaching method that they would have recognized instantly. It's called kal vachomer. It's a from light to heavy kind of argument. Basically, if something is true in a small or less important case, then it's definitely true in a bigger, more important one.
So he lays out his argument perfectly. Okay, so you agree the priests are guiltless when they serve the temple on the Sabbath. Then comes the mic drop moment. Well, I'm telling you, something greater than the temple is here. You see what he just did? This isn't just about defending his disciples anymore. He's making this massive claim about who he is.
He uses the exact same logic for the healing. He puts it right back on them. Come on, which one of you, if your sheep fell into a pit on the Sabbath, wouldn't pull it out? I mean, the answer is obvious. So his point is devastatingly simple. If you'd show mercy to an animal, how much more value is a man than a sheep? It's always lawful to do good on the Sabbath.
So he's completely taken apart their legal arguments on their own terms. But he's still not finished. Now he goes for the knockout punch. He gets to the absolute core of the problem, the one crucial ingredient they've left out of their whole system. And he does it by quoting their own scriptures back to them from the prophet Hosea. I desire mercy and not sacrifice. He's basically telling them, if you guys had any clue what this verse actually meant, you wouldn't be standing here condemning innocent people. He's saying they're so obsessed with the external rituals, the sacrifice, that they become blind to what God really wants.
And that just changes everything, doesn't it? Suddenly, you see that this whole debate was never really about plucking grain. It was about the heart. The Pharisees were using the law like a club to beat people with, and Jesus was showing them that the law is supposed to flow from a heart of love and mercy.
And think about it. Why is mercy so key to the Sabbath? Because the Sabbath itself was born out of mercy. This law was given to a nation of former slaves who knew nothing but nonstop, backbreaking labor. So God gave them this incredible gift, a day to rest, to heal, to be restored. The entire spirit of the Sabbath is mercy.
So when you look at it that way, it's so obvious. Jesus wasn't breaking the Sabbath at all. He was fulfilling its deepest purpose. He was living out its true spirit. He showed mercy by letting his disciples eat. He showed mercy by healing that man's hand. He was doing good and restoring life, which is what the Sabbath was always about.
So what's the flip side? What happens when your heart doesn't have that mercy? Well, the answer we get is actually pretty chilling. It leads to a very specific kind of blindness.
Just let this sink in for a minute. A man who's been afflicted for who knows how long is instantly made whole. He's healed. And the reaction from the religious experts isn't joy, it's anger. Their fury over a broken rule was bigger than their celebration of a restored human life. That anger was the symptom of their whole problem.
And this is the result. This is the blindness we're talking about, because they had no mercy in their hearts. When God did something incredible that didn't fit into their neat little boxes, they couldn't see it. They couldn't understand it. And when people don't understand something, they often condemn it. They called the guiltless guilty.
It all boils down to this, really. God isn't looking for rule-following robots. He desires children who actually share his heart. Obedience without mercy is not the kind of obedience he's interested in.
So here's the timeless lesson for us. This isn't just some dusty old story. It is a massive warning sign. A heart that lacks mercy will always end up misreading the situation, condemning things it doesn't understand, and becoming totally blind to what God is doing right in front of our faces.
And that leaves all of us with a really challenging question to sit with. If a lack of mercy could blind even the most educated religious experts, what about us? What might our own blind spots be? What good, amazing things could God be doing in the world all around us that we're missing, just because it doesn't fit into our neat and tidy boxes?